Peace and blessings. Welcome back to the channel once again. I'm Dr. Bobby Price, and today we're going to talk about the impact of stress on your overall health. See, this is a topic that people most often overlook. When they're looking at all of these signs and symptoms, these diagnoses, the one thing that people never think about is the impact of stress on that particular condition. And what you're going to see today is how stress is not only connected to things that we're familiar with, like an ulcer, but stress could be connected to things like cardiovascular disease. It could be connected to women's reproductive issues. It could be connected to your hair falling out on top of your head, on the edges of your hairline as well too. So it's just really important to understand we don't account for this. There's no supplement for stress. All right. This is something that you have to do something about internally, because the truth of the matter is stress is something that is created within. And the reason why I say that is because most of the stress that we're receiving today isn't real stress. It's not the kind of stress where we're getting held up by a gun. It's not the kind of stress where we're in a car accident. Most of us don't experience that on a daily basis. And that is the kind of stress that people think that they're experiencing when they're on social media or they're looking at what happened politically and what this country did to this country. All of this is creating a ton of stress, a ton of anxiety that we have no idea of what that impact has on our overall health. So what I'm going to do today is break down the impact that stress creates on your body. And then what I'm going to do at the end is I'm going to give you a holistic technique that I use that most doctors know nothing about. Even though they know this in anatomy, they don't know it as a holistic technique. I'm going to show you that technique and many other things you can do to stimulate what's called our vagus nerve, the longest cranial nerve in our body that is connected to our brain and then connected to a very, very important part of our anatomy that is directly connected to stress. All right, so without any further ado, let's jump right into it. Let's first talk about what impacts happen when you get stressed. Now, a lot of you know if you stress, all right, now, again, what is stress? It's not a physical thing most of the time. Most of the stress that people are experiencing is mental. It's emotional stress, okay? Which means that we can control this because we can control our minds and we can be we can have emotional intelligence. All right. So this is the important thing that I want you to know. You have control over this, but you have to empower yourself. So most of us know that if we stress a lot, we've heard our grandmother say, "You get on my nerves. You get on my last nerves." We've heard our parents say, "You're going to run my blood pressure up." Okay. So we've heard our parents say this. All right. Now, intuitively, they know that when you stress them, that it could create conditions, okay? But most people don't know all of them. So number one, it's important to know the reason why it can create conditions in the body is because one, it triggers what's called the fight or flight nervous system, okay? Or we can call it the sympathetic nervous system, okay? But it triggers that fight or flight sort of system in our bodies to say that there's an emergency, there's a problem, it's time to run from a bear. These are things that have been adapted and have been evolving in our system since the beginning of time. And whenever we trigger this fight or flight system, it tells our bodies to release stress hormones. Now, these stress hormones are good in an instance where we need to run from a tiger, a lion, or a bear. However, when we don't have to do that, these things, especially when you're doing them chronically, they could be very toxic for us because those stress hormones are very, very acidic to our bodies. Okay, so adrenaline starts to pump and goes to our muscles. We can run faster. You've heard about moms who get into a car accident and their baby is trapped and they have to lift the car up. Okay, that's the adrenaline being pumped as a result of that fight or flight system. Okay, so it does have some purpose. Okay, but on a day-to-day basis, we cannot be living in this system, and most people are. Okay, number two, when you are triggering this system, and you are in a constant state of stress, which is called chronic stress, you're going to have problems falling asleep. Okay. All of us have had that night where we're thinking right before we go to bed, we start thinking about what we didn't do that day, the bills we got to pay. The person said this to me. The person cut me off on the highway. You start thinking about those things and you cannot go to sleep. Okay. And when you are chronically stressed like that, because all of those things create imaginary stress. And what I mean by imaginary is not that they're not real to you, is that they're not a real stress in terms of like, they're not going to shape shift your life in that moment. Okay. They're not you running from a bear or having to dodge a bullet. Okay. And so it is going to create sleep issues as well too. And we all know that when you don't sleep well, that is going to impact your overall health. Okay. Number 3, it weakens the immune system when you're chronically stressed as well too. And I'll get into that in just a second. But essentially, your immune system, 80% of it is in your gut. And when I was mentioning earlier, your vagus nerve, which is what is your parasympathetic nervous system, not sympathetic, but parasympathetic nervous system. The parasympathetic nervous system is the system that is the calming nervous system. Okay? The opposite of fight or flight. All right? So it calms your body down. It stimulates digestion. Okay? It boosts the immune system. It increases detoxification. Okay? So that's the parasympathetic nervous system, which is connected to your vagus nerve. Okay? Now, when you get chronically stressed, the issue becomes that nerve is attached in your brain, the longest nerve in your body, longest cranial nerve in your body, attaches to your brain and goes directly into your gut. Okay? Attached to a system called the enteric nervous system, the second largest nervous system in our bodies after our brain. Most people don't know that we have a nervous system in our gut called the enteric nervous system. And the more you're constantly being stimulated in fight or flight, instead of being stimulated to be calm, soothing, and to stimulate the system to improve digestion, to increase your immunity. Well, this is why a lot of people who are chronically stressed have weakened immune systems, okay? The other thing that most people don't know about stress is that it's going to increase your blood sugar. So if you're pre-diabetic or diabetic or any of those things run in your family, when you stress, you increase your blood sugar levels, okay? The reason why you do this is because when your body is stressed, it tells your liver to release more glucose, more sugar, okay? Because it thinks that you're running from a bear, a lion, and so it wants to increase glucose to go to the muscle so that the muscle can perform. It doesn't know that you're just mad at the person that cut you off in traffic, or your boss said this to you today, or your girlfriend or boyfriend missed a call late at night, okay? It doesn't know that. So it's acting as if you're running from a lion, tiger, or bear, okay? So it could actually impact your blood sugar and lead to prediabetes or diabetes. It also, as I mentioned before, increases stress hormones, and stress hormones tighten the blood vessels, all right? Why is that important? When you get stress hormones and they tighten the blood vessels so that blood can flow quicker, okay? Because your heart rate is up as well too. If your heart rate is up, it means it's pumping more blood, then the blood vessels constrict so that that blood can get through quicker, all right? But what is that going to do? It's going to actually cause increased blood pressure, all right? So when you stress, it doesn't matter. If it's just stressed about what your boss said when you clocked in 2 minutes late, it doesn't matter. If you're chronically stressing about things, all right, this is what you're doing to your body, which is going to increase your overall risk of a heart attack, all right? So that's really important. The other thing that stress does is it increases the production of acid in the stomach, okay? This can lead to heartburn and ultimately can lead to more ulcers. This is why when people get stressed and they end up with an ulcer, this is why, okay? So this is another reason why it's so important to manage your stress, which we're going to talk about in just a second. Number 8, tension headaches, okay? Tension, because again, when you're in fight or flight, when you're stressing yourself, it's going to constrict blood vessels. This is what causes the tension headaches, okay? It's not just, constriction of blood vessels, in your arms and around your heart. There's constriction of blood vessels everywhere in your body, including your head, which leads to the headaches, okay? And then number 9, I would say, is depression, okay? Chronic stress can lead to depression, okay? It could also lead to, number 10, weight gain, okay? Because one of the stress hormones that your body is constantly being triggered when you are stressed is cortisol. And cortisol tells the body, store fat at all costs. So when you stress, you're telling yourself, I want to be overweight. Okay, you're telling yourself, I don't want to lose weight. All right, so those are really, really important things that people don't consider when they're stressing, and they don't create things in their lifestyle to actually do anything about this stress. They just say, I'm not going to stress, or they don't even say, I'm not going to stress. They just say, that person better not cut me off anymore. My boss, next time he say that, I'm going to say this. And the list goes on and on. Nobody's trying to actually do anything about the stress, okay? So what we're going to talk about is, how do you stimulate the vagus nerve connected to the parasympathetic nervous system, which is our chill system, okay? Which is the system that tells us to digest better, okay? Which means that you're not going to be constipated, okay? All right? Which tells our system to boost immunity, which tells our system to properly manage weight as well too. Okay, so it's just really, really important to understand, if you stimulate the vagus nerve, it's going to stimulate relaxation. If you stimulate fight or flight or stress, you're going to stimulate gain weight. You're going to stimulate high blood sugars. You're going to stimulate higher blood pressure, weakened immune system, problem sleeping. All of these issues, hugely important. All right, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to give you a few things you could do to stimulate your vagus nerve, which is going to lower anxiety, which is going to decrease cortisol by way helping you to maintain a healthy weight or lose weight. It's going to activate your parasympathetic nervous system, which is in charge of your heart rate, which is in charge of your digestion, your mood, okay, which is connected to anxiety and depression, or just chilling out and relaxing and being calm. Okay, it's also connected to your immune system as well too. And then also, when you stimulate your vagus nerve, it lowers what is called metabolic toxicity in your metabolic system. Okay, and also help to get rid of that toxicity in the system as well too. All right, so number 1, how you stimulate the vagus nerve. Number 1, deep diaphragmatic breathing. Okay. That is sitting upright, not hunched over, breathing in deeply and making your belly go out. So blowing your belly out, not your chest out. So when you breathe in, your belly should get big, okay? What you're gonna do is, you're gonna breathe in for 4 seconds. So a 4-second breathe in. You're gonna hold for 7 seconds. And then you're gonna exhale for 8 seconds, okay? That's gonna be your deep diaphragmatic breathing. That's going to decrease cortisol. That's going to slow down your heart rate, okay? And that's going to also improve your anxiety or your depression or mental clarity at the same time. So deep diaphragmatic breathing, I do it every day I get up and right before I go to bed, all right? Number 2, exercise. Exercise will actually stimulate your vagus nerve too, and particularly when you do exercises like yoga. Okay, so doing yoga could be very helpful as well too, because yoga, the practice of yoga is yoking the mind and the body together. Okay, and some of us, our bodies get disconnected from our minds. This is why we could be perfectly fine, having a good day, laughing with our friends, and have an anxiety attack, because our minds are disconnected from our bodies. Okay, because right now I'm having a good time, but all of a sudden I have an anxiety attack. Our minds are disconnected from our body. They're not in unison anymore. So that's why I love the practice of yoga. It can yoke the mind and the body back together. All right. Number 3, high vibrational music. Okay. High vibrational music. Bob Marley, one of my favorites. Okay. Listening to binaural beats. Beautiful Chorus, another one of my favorites. Infinite Universe, one of my favorite songs of theirs. So listen to the high vibrational music. Get rid of the women don't love men, men don't love music, and get rid of the trap music, get rid of all that music. Listen to high vibrational music, music that raises your spirits, music that makes you feel love, music that makes you feel in tune with yourself and the divine. All right. Number four, I'm going to give you a technique. All right. Now, right here, you have a notch right here. All right. At the top of your sternum. Okay. This is called the suprasternal notch. Okay. Suprasternal notch right here. So you can just put your finger right there. And what I want you to do is I just want you to stimulate, not hard, just a little bit of stimulation. You do that stimulation a little bit and then you hold. Okay, hold for like maybe 4 or 5 seconds and then do it again. Hold. Very gentle. Hold. All right, so do that for at least a minute. Maybe 2 to 3 sets of that. That'll help. All right. This part of your ear, not this part, this top part on the inside layer, but right here. Okay. Stimulate right there on both sides. That's also a pressure point for the vagus nerve as well too. So stimulate there, not hard, gentle. That's going to stimulate the vagus nerve as well too. They actually have a device that they can implant into the system and stimulate the vagus nerve, but you don't need to do that because you got these holistic techniques. Another great way to stimulate the vagus nervous system is humming. Okay, now I've mentioned this before in a previous video where I talked about how to increase nitric oxide in the body. Okay, when you hum, it increases nitric oxide, which improves circulation in every place that you need it, especially for the fellas, right? But also humming can be very impactful to our nervous system in a very positive way, our parasympathetic nervous system, by stimulating the vagus nerve. Okay, so I love this because this is what our ancestors used to do. All right. We would be out there singing positivity, things that lift up our spirits during the worst moments in human history, in my opinion. And then when they would tell us to stop singing because the words that we were using were, in my opinion, revolutionary. They were making us feel revolutionary. They were molding us together. So we stopped singing because they didn't like the words. So we started humming. Okay. And humming is a practice that is not only good to improve your spirit, but also to improve your actual nervous system as well too, by stimulating the vagus nerve. So I love that one as well too. So if you ever meet me, you may hear me just hum for no reason. I'm constantly doing that. All right. The other thing is laughing. Laughter could actually be very, very helpful for stimulating your vagus nervous system as well too. Calming. I mean, of course, when we're laughing, we're telling the body everything is good. Life is joyful. Okay, you're putting a smile on your face. A smile on your face stimulates a totally different nervous system versus a frown on your face. Okay? 2 totally different nervous systems. So that's why laughing can be so helpful in terms of stimulating your actual nervous system. It tells the body what's going on the outside. Okay? Hugely important. And the last thing you could do to stimulate your nervous system, or stimulate your vagus nerve, again, which is the longest cranial nerve in your body. I think it's cranial nerve number 10. Improve or fix your gut health. Okay, a lot of people got really messed up guts. Okay, and when I'm saying a messed up gut, that's inflammation in the gut, a leaky gut, irritable bowel syndrome, ulcers, ulcerative colitis. They're bloated, they're gassy, they're full of poo, 10 to 25 pounds of undigested fecal matter just sitting right there. And what people don't understand is, as I mentioned before, your vagus nerve, which comes off of your spine, cranial nerve number 10, comes off your spine, it goes directly into your gut, okay? And it's connecting with the enteric nervous system, which is the nervous system for your gut. So the first place that you have a nervous system issue is usually in your gut due to something you ate, or something you felt or thought. Because you got to think about it. Most of the time when we say we have a gut feeling, okay, this is why we say we have a gut feeling, because our thoughts, okay, our thoughts can literally change how our gut constitution is. But most importantly, when we have a thought, that thought goes to our gut as well too. And we know that because when we look at the communication between the enteric nervous system in the gut and the spinal nervous system in the brain and spinal cord, a lot of the information is arising first in the enteric nervous system. So sometimes our gut feeling happens before we actually have our thought. Okay, so it's really important for us to fix our gut first. And inflammation is probably the biggest issue coming from the food. Most people are eating ultra processed foods. And then that ultra processed food is making the gut leaky. And when the gut becomes leaky, that's when it starts to leak out things from the gut and causes the immune system to become overreactive. Okay, another big issue around the gut is seed oils, because seed oils are full of what are called omega-6. Okay, not omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory, but omega-6s, which are pro-inflammatory. They cause inflammation in the gut or inflammation in the body. So most of the ultra-processed foods are full of omega-6s. And unfortunately, I've never seen anybody, rarely, who actually had adequate levels of omega-3s, which are anti-inflammatory. So it's okay when you have sufficient levels of omega-3s and then equal levels of omega-6s, but you can't have a large number of omega-6s and not enough omega-3s. Okay, and that's what I find the issue is. Okay, and so fixing your gut is going to be a major sort of overhaul to your vagus nerve, but also to your overall gut system as well too, and your enteric nervous system as well too. All right, so I hope you guys have enjoyed today's video. I hope you understand why now you have to stop stressing, use some of the techniques that I talked about in the video in terms of stimulating your vagus nerve, and then also get a mental approach to understand, don't sweat the small stuff, okay? So if you're ready to change your whole health, you're ready to hit that reset button, I have a group detox that is coming up in September, okay? You got a little bit more time to join it. Inside of there, we're gonna be doing all these kind of things, okay? All of these practices that I'm showing you in there, we'll be doing that. We're gonna have a bunch of challenges in there. You're gonna get my detox as well too. When you sign up for my 30-day group detox, you're gonna get a meal plan, recipes. You're gonna actually get inside of a support group, okay? That I'll come inside of that support group and teach you guys things too about not only detoxing and cleaning out your gut, but also how to live a healthy lifestyle as well too. So if you're interested in that, the link will be below in the comments where you could check out my 30-day group detox that starts in September, okay? Otherwise, hit that subscribe button, hit the like button, share this, because sharing is caring. We need to get this kind of information out to the people. Until the next time, peace and blessings and Godspeed.